I have the privilege today of receiving a woman that I've long admired and who's recently actually become a very good friend of mine as well. Lise Bourbeau has contributed to the world in a way that very few people do, lifting people's vibrations by bringing them back to their own power, to their own inner knowing and their inner wisdom. And it's really going to be a wonderful moment we're going to spend together. So welcome, my dear Lise.
Well, it's my pleasure.
When we go back and you think about the synchronicity that introduced us, who could have imagined?
That was a year ago. Huh?
It's been a year.
Yeah.
And for people who haven't heard the story, I was working with your grandson without knowing that I was working with him. And one day in a conversation, it simply came about that he was going to have lunch with Lise. I said, Lise? And, oh, yeah, my grandmother, Lise Bourbeau. Oh.
Yes, all my grandsons, they call me Lise. My children call me Lise. Everybody calls me Lise.
Yeah. And going back, what had happened is going back 4 years, I had written a song called Marionette, which in English would be puppets, inspired by your work. And I had placed an intention that you just hear this song and that you might find some enjoyment out of it to see this. And that was the pretext that I wrote to you and you actually responded.
Yes, yeah. I was curious. I wanted to meet this man that created that song that is very sincere and very strong, right to the point about the 5 wounds, but you did it in a way that it was funny also. And I really said, okay, because I wanted to meet you to see what you looked like, what you sounded like, and you were exactly the way I was expecting.
Mm. The inspiration behind that video was to show the 5 wounds of the soul, as you have written extensively on in at least 2 of your books, and these are bestsellers all over the world in many languages. Yeah. I wanted to show the wounds through animals because, people, and as you know, we all have body types linked to the wounds. I said, well, if I show these as animals, perhaps it will be lighter and easier to what did you feel when you saw the animals representing the different ones?
I thought that was very original, and that I said, boy, this guy has got a good imagination to create that. And I know that once you sent me the video, I sent it to all the people working for Écoute, all my trainers, and they just loved it. They says, oh, it's so interesting. And it's also, you did it in French, so they all understood.
Yeah. One of the things that I've personally aspired to, and really where your teaching struck a chord with me, was that we're living in an age, and you've been doing this for so long now, that you were truly a pioneer. When you started, this was not something that we were accustomed to hearing about.
That's right.
And you're doing it in a way that makes it fun also. I mean, how did you first feel the calling to go into this type of teaching?
Well, it was a dream. I had a dream that was maybe because I started my school 42 years ago, so maybe about 6 months before, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was in awe. I just was so excited because in that dream, I was in a big hall, about 1,000 people. And I was talking about listening to your body, and I did not talk about wounds in those days when I first started, but just listening to your body, and it's things that I didn't even know. I learned when I was listening to my talking in the dream. And it was just like a synthesis of everything that I had learned, because I had been reading books and for about 15 years, all those spiritual books, and going to different seminars in California, because there was nothing in Quebec here. It was just in California. They started there. And I knew that I had to teach that. And I got up and I said, this is what I want to do. Because I was in sales in those days. I was number one of Canada, United States, making lots of money, having a good career, and everything was going fine in my life with my children, my husband. And but I was feeling many times I would say, well, I seem like I know it all now in sales. I've done so many experiments, and I'm not learning anymore. It felt like it was missing something. But what else can I do? Where I'm my own boss and having the big car paid by the company and good money, and I couldn't see anything else that I could do. So this is why I kept going on. But after the dream, then I knew this is what I want to do.
And this brings me into something really important. We've talked about this before. The convergence of spiritual teaching and making a living doing it. And this is something that you really were able to combine these. And so many people have a reticence with this. What would you say to the people who have a problem being authentic spiritual beings and earning a great living?
Yeah. Well, I think what made it so popular is because of my practical mind. I'm a very practical person, and I don't like to use 25 words if I can use 10 words to say the same thing. And I like to synthesize things, make things easier to understand. And I remember in school, sometimes I was the only one that had the answer of something, and then the teacher would say, well, go to the blackboard and show them how you arrive at the right answer in maybe mathematics or whatever. And then I would explain it, and the little girls would say, oh, well, that's easy now. The way she explains it, now we understand. So even when I was young, I had that talent of making things simpler so that it goes right to the core. You're not using your mind all the time trying to understand.
Right.
You feel it.
So would you say that what I'm hearing is that people are overthinking it? They're thinking too much.
Yes.
I'm trying to be an authentic spiritual being, but somewhere I don't deserve to and this would go back to the wounds that they carry.
Yes. Yeah, because I would read a book, and in one page I could say it in one sentence. I could say the resume of that page, because I said, oh, that's what he means, the author. See, even as I was reading, I would simplify things in my mind.
Mm-hmm. I've heard often that the universe is actually quite simple.
Oh, yeah.
And it's humans that make it complicated.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. And why do human beings need to make everything complicated? Where does that come from?
Well, it comes from our ego. Mm-hmm. Ego that wants to be right and the wrong, and okay, not okay, and supposed to, and we complicate. Every time the ego takes over, it's complicated. Mm-hmm. When you are centered, that means intelligence is taking over. To be intelligent is to simplify things. And when I read that one time in a book, that the more you're intelligent, the more you simplify things. And I was so happy, because I thought that I was always trying to simplify because I was lazy. Okay. But no, I learned it was because I was intelligent. I said, oh, that's a good news.
Yeah. Ego is something that you can spend a life trying to master, right? And as soon as you think you've mastered something, you have another test. There's all these levels.
Yeah, because ego is only memory. The ego is made of all the memories of all our past lives, all the ancestors we have, all their beliefs. This is wrong. This is right. This is supposed to be like that. So the ego is made just of mental. The intelligence. As soon as you get out of that, then means you're more you're influenced by something much deeper inside of you.
Yeah,
your intelligence.
Our profound intuition, knowing, and it's crazy because in times like today, for example, when you arrived dressed in red, and this wasn't prepared. It wasn't prepared. The rose, this just connecting to an energy. And I think, as you say, the more you practice that, the more you allow yourself to be confident in listening, things place themselves. And this is a great example today. I mean, when you walk through the door, it's like, of course she's dressed in red. It was just, of course. And you must have seen this your whole life.
Yes, but it's to me it's so. I'm so used to that, to just be. I'm spontaneous. And many times I say things that people don't like. Well, it's okay. They don't have to like me. When I said it, it just came out. And anything that comes out really fast and not because I'm going through an emotion. Like if I was, you say something to me and I feel hurt, and then I say something back, then it's my ego because I am reacting.
Right.
But when something just like me, I'm Mrs. Question. So this is why all my teaching is to learn to teach people how to ask ourselves questions, how to ask other people questions instead of always telling them what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
It's so much simpler. How do you feel about doing it that way? Wouldn't you prefer that way?
And this is something I really appreciate about you, because I've always enjoyed asking people questions. And what I've noticed, and I'm sure you can elaborate on this, depending on the level of ego of the person who's receiving the question, the answers can be very, it's like, don't you understand? I mean, the ego can get very angry and impertinent when he's asked a question, and yet the only way to learn about anything or anyone is by asking. Yeah. So why does the ego react in this way to expressing itself? Where does that come from?
Because it only knows that.
Right.
It's like a record, it's all inside our mind, and like we're all born with a mental body, but does our mental body listen to the ego, or does the mental body listen to the intelligence? Right. That's the difference.
I've often said what the ego wants and what the soul wants are rarely the same thing. So what would you offer as a suggestion to someone who wants to listen to their soul and has all these experiences? How does this converge for a sane, healthy life?
Yeah, well, it's a question of years of practicing, because when I first started listening to your body, my ego was still very strong, but I was half and half, in my ego or not. Like in my personal life, with my husband, because then I had a divorce because I was trying to change him, my personal life, and my ego took over. But when it was the question of truths, new things I would learn, then it was easy for me to be centered. So slowly, with every year, I could feel it. I could feel that I was less and less in my ego. And now I still have an ego, but it's kind of funny. It becomes funny after a while. Then I say, oh, okay, because my ego I call it mouchette. Okay, Mouchette, okay, I know that you think like that, but today I decide I'm going to try something else. I never get angry that all of a sudden I let my ego take over in my reacting to something or saying something. But so that's what we never know. Like some people ask me, when is it that we don't have no anymore in ego? Well, it will happen when you don't have to come back on Earth anymore. That means that if you come back on Earth, you still have an ego to work on.
How does it feel at this juncture in your life to be a little bit less busy? Because you've said to me often, I don't know how I did what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, you did so many things all over the world
Yeah.
at different levels,
Yeah.
conferences, workshops, books, everything.
Yeah.
And now you're still doing, look, today you're generous enough to share your
Yeah.
time with me and everyone
Yeah.
who can benefit, but you've relaxed a little bit, right?
Oh yes, but it's so strange because it's amazing. I've heard all my sisters are retired because they retired. Maybe at 70 years old, but now I'm 83 years old and I just retired last year, but half retired because I still do things for Écoute-Ton-Corps. But I still look after the trainers and everything. I will never stop completely, but it's to me this is a mystery that I cannot explain. How I could find the time to do everything I do now, organizing parties. I'm the one always organizing parties and weekends and going on holidays here and there. I've a year ahead of time. My agenda is full, and I still do that. But in those days, I used to work, all going. I've been teaching in 28 countries. My books are translated in 25 languages, I think now, and it's going very, very well still. Because I have, again, another gift from heaven is my daughter who started to work with me at 18 years old, and she runs now. I promoted her to in charge of Listen to Your Body at 35 years old, and she is doing a fantastic job. And her husband is the director of my publishing company for all my books. So
it's just incredible to look at the ecosystem that you've created and to see. I mean, I can't imagine a greater joy than to have someone in our family be so devoted to the work that you've created.
Yes. And this is why I say, I don't know how many times I say thank you in one day. And before going to sleep, I say my thank yous for the day. I feel so fortunate. All my family, my grandchildren, I have 2 great-granddaughters and another great-grandchild on the way now. Now, all my grandchildren, they all want 2 and 3 children each. So I'm going to be busy with great-grandchildren. But they don't live far away, and I see them a lot. And I live with my sister, which is just joy because she's like my twin sister. We've always been very close together. So it's...
When you talked about gratitude just a minute ago, maybe you could share with us how like what is there emotion attached when you thank, like what is your process, because it's obviously very powerful.
Yes, well, it's such a important habit to to always try to find things to say thank you to, instead of always thinking of what you don't have or what happened that you didn't like. Because there are so many little things that you can say thank you for. While you're walking, while you go to the store. Like sometimes I go to the store, and last week I went away with my daughter. We went, just the girls together, for a few days. And over there, I was in the States, United States, and there were so many women there. And one man that said, "Oh, you are a very pretty lady. Oh, you look so beautiful." Because me, I like to, to put makeup on, my lipstick, and I try to look as good as it. When I look at the mirror, it has to look good. So, and then I get all those compliments, and then it's thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, universe. Like instead of always thinking that maybe somebody yelled at me for something or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
So could we say that it's where we're choosing to focus, what we're
right.
focusing on?
Yes, I have always focused on how fortunate I was. I've been doing that for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
I always compared myself, not with my faults, but with my qualities, and I'd say, "Oh, look, this is easy for me. I'm lucky because it's hard for her to do this, and to me, God, it comes easy." So that was a talent.
What would you say to someone who's listening and has a program of, beating themselves up or being hard on themselves, and the cassette, they're not good enough? How do you change that for a positive?
Well,
What do you do with
but
that?
you have to decide first. You have to say, and people, they say, "Oh, I would just like to be like you." That doesn't work.
Right.
That doesn't work. You have to all of a sudden realize, I've had it. Now, I don't feel good when I think that way or when I speak that way. I don't feel good. Okay, what else can I do to feel better? And then just try to remind yourself, at the end of the day, you can go over your day. How could I put that into a positive way instead of a negative? Then you start slowly, and then it becomes easier all the time. For me, I'm very fortunate because I was teaching that all the time. So, I kept talking about it and writing about it. So that's why it was easy for me to remember it.
Yeah. It's very interesting what you just said. How much would you say you learned from what you were teaching?
Oh, yeah, everything. If I had not been teaching it, there's a lot of things that I would not, still would not have done so far in my life. Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an expression that I heard when I was younger, and at the time it bothered me, but I grew to realize, and the expression is, "Fake it till you make it." And it's like, oh, this doesn't sound right. But what it actually means is that if you go around saying, "I love you, thank you, you're beautiful, what a great day," even if your brain isn't thinking it, the more you're doing it, you're actually creating it. Would you agree with that?
Yes. That's a good way. You're forcing yourself to be what you want to be.
Yes.
Even if you don't really mean it, but you know that you want to get there one day. So that's okay.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, and I've tried it, and it actually works.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing how you can convince. We talked a lot about the ego earlier. Like you said, the ego is only what you already know. So if you trick your ego into new information.
That's right.
Like, the world is beautiful. Wow, I'm an infinite being of light. Pretty soon the ego starts to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you witnessed that in the people that you teach and through all the years?
Oh yes, and I've known one person, the person that I worked for when I was in Tupperware, 50 years ago, and she her and her husband became friends with my husband and I. So I stayed friend with her all my life. And she was the type that was always like that. Everything was positive, and she had all kinds of diseases and everything, but everything was beautiful, beautiful all the time. She was never complaining about anything, and she was a good subject to study for me. And I said, why does she have all those diseases? Because I knew that she was being so positive that she was putting the lid on things.
Okay.
Like if she was angry at somebody, she would, oh no, that person is wonderful, But this is why she ended up blind after, in her old days and everything, because she did not want to see the truth. But the fact that she was so positive, she lived until 80 years old with all different diabetic. She had a lot of health problems. But so I could see the positive way of doing that. But then if it's if it's exaggerated and it's because you're putting the lid, you don't want to see the truth, then yeah. But your body will tell you if you are sincere or not.
Well, the way I understand that what you've just shared is the thoughts, the words, and the actions all need to be in harmony.
That's
and if for example, someone was, oh, wow, you were so beautiful, but they're thinking something else.
Yeah.
Then there's, like you say, this creates the malaise in the body.
That's right. Yes.
And this is a tough thing. So it's really integrity at all levels.
That's why it's so important to listen to our physical body, because it's never wrong. When somebody has cancer, and I know this person is keeping a deep grudge or maybe even hate from one of her parents, and when I start asking questions about their parents, and they say, oh no, my mother, she was she really was such a good woman, she was so like this, like that, and you can see that she's trying to convince herself that she loved her mother. And I say, well, look, you're asking me about so just can you just try to see deeper? Is it possible? Because you are allowed to have a grudge. You are allowed to have been angry at your mom for some things when you were young. It's normal. And so because you have to look at it, accept it, that I was just so hurt at the time. That's why I hated my mother when she was like that. And then that's the beginning of the healing, because I've seen, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of it in big files, because before people used to send us letters, and now it's all on the computer. But about the healing that they create in their body after they start making peace with their parents. And so I know that it works, and I know that it's possible, because those people they can't believe how their life has changed, because that big grudge that they keep inside and they put the lid on it is eating it away, eating away that's why the cancer, that's eating you away.
Well, you've said something several times, and each time you say it, I'm like a cat whose the ears, they stand up, because it's so interesting when you say, if you listen to your body, listen to your soul, it's the same thing. What does that mean exactly? Because this is something that I find very interesting. I mean, you talked about it when we did the documentary. Listen to your soul, listen to your body, it's the same thing. So how does that work exactly?
Well, when we talk about listening to your body, we talk not just about the physical body, the physical, emotional, and the mental body. And so the soul is made of the emotional and mental body. That's our soul. But when it's not right inside, when we don't want to see something, then we block the feeling, we don't want to think about it, and then finally it's the physical body that will say, well, look, you don't want to listen to your emotional, to your mental body. Well, now we're making it so more painful,
Right.
so that because it's the last aspect.
Right. Right.
These people, we always receive lots of messages through our feelings,
Right.
like that, but we don't want. No, we convince ourselves we're feeling okay,
Right.
but it's not.
And this compounds as
Yeah.
we get older.
Yes.
I mean, even I look at my own body, and I've always taken good care of myself. I'm an athlete. I've been competitive in sports, but I've noticed that when I went through emotionally trying times, for example, just with my own knee, and in terms of comparing the two sides of my body, I noticed a difference. And from all my research, especially reading your books, it's feminine, assuming that, and assertion and expression. And you would think an artist who's singing, I mean, I've always been very vocal about my opinions, everything. And yet maybe there's a part of that wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. So it's, and where does it end up? Well, in the body.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, it's the last bastion, the body, because once the body reflects something, well, you can't ignore it anymore.
This is why there are things that happen that are so fantastic, because sometimes the soul, the person understands everything emotionally and mentally and everything, and then there's a healing, a miracle happens, and nobody can explain it. But it's because that it was time that soul has maybe worked on that same type of problem for many, many lifetimes. And now all of a sudden it's okay. And then that, because you probably have read about what happens to those people who have gone through a miracle in their life. They change a lot after. Right. They're not the same type of person, right, because everything opened up for them. Yeah. But what is very important is to give yourself time. Don't try to do it all at once. Right. So if you see all the every day your little victory today with a certain type of person or with yourself, and you just congratulate yourself and say, I'm looking after myself, and we have to accept that it might take many lifetimes, but who cares if all the time?
Well, the ego resists.
Yeah, but me, I don't care if I come back again, because my life, I find it so beautiful, and I don't know how much more beautiful it can be, but I just accept it, and I would like to come back, just to make it even better and better, Yeah.
It's incredible, the relationship, and we've talked about this before, of the emotion even with food. And you've talked about how if you condition your body that you can digest a good meal and a glass of wine or whatever and not feel guilty about it, then it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We have to experiment it to know that we can create all those little miracles, like if somebody has a big party one night and they really overdo it in eating and drinking and everything. And for sure, I'm positive, if that person has no guilt at all, she says to her body, I know I asked you a lot, so I know I'm making you work a lot to digest all those things. But it was just tonight, before going to sleep, that I would say things like that. It was just for tonight, and I'm sorry if I make you work a lot, but it's okay. It was such a good time tonight, and thank you for looking after digesting and eliminating everything that I.
So this is amazing what you just said. So essentially, what you're doing is you're programming
Yeah.
your emotional body
Yeah.
and saying it's okay, and everything changes.
Yes. Yeah.
As opposed to doing it and feeling guilty and beating yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is the guilt that blocks everything inside of your body.
So again, for people who are listening, it's like, allow yourself, give yourself permission. This is something I've been talking about for a long time. Give yourself permission.
Yeah, permission to be a human being.
Yeah.
With sometimes we have weaknesses, sometimes we have good intentions, but we don't follow them. So as long as we're willing to take responsibility for the outcome of that, no problem.
Yeah. And you look at what brings us to the point where we feel all this emotional baggage. It's all this stuff that we haven't, transfer blood, wounds from our parents, from our upbringing, from school, from the society. And I think what's really great about what's happening right now in the world, and you must be so thrilled to see it, is all these years that you've created this incredible body of work that people are now starting to see that it works.
Yeah.
And not only that it works, but it changes a life.
Yeah. Yes, now I know for a fact that Écoute-Ton-Corps, the school will continue to exist for generations to come, because now it's very, very solid, and all the new people that are working with my daughter and my son-in-law, they are young and very, very branché. How do we say that? Connected, and they're so good. When I was running everything, I never had such a young average age of the employees. Yeah. They were all more towards my age, and now there's yes. So those people will continue to spread.
And that speaks to the evolution of human consciousness as well. Right?
Because now there's in the Listen to Your Body school that are really working, like teaching, giving workshops and everything all over. There's 77 people.
Wow.
So it's at the head office here in Quebec. It is about 22 maybe, but all over with the friends in different countries. It's 7 that are in charge,
It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
Your entire life everything you've done is inspiring, and you do it with so much humility. I mean, true humility. I've spent, quite a bit of time in the past year just going for a little walk with you, and one of the most beautiful things about you is that you are so profound and yet so humble. And this is, to me, it's really an example of how people who want to live a spiritual life and don't fall in the trap of the spiritual ego. And how did you not fall in that trap?
Well, the only thing that I can think of is that I'm an old soul, and I've been doing that kind of work in other lifetimes before, because I did not have to work on that. Since the very first day of Listen to Your Body, with all my trainers and the customers and everybody, I never thought that I was better than the other people. I just was fortunate enough to have the ability to take all this spiritual teaching that's been going on for forever on Earth, because I've read big big books, so many. It was complicated to understand, and I was always able to simplify that, and so that's what I always felt very fortunate to have that talent.
Well, again, you've said it again, the simplification. And then what I picked up on when you said that is that by keeping things simple, you don't bloat
Yeah.
your sense of self. And it's funny because the greatest things in life are simple. And again, we said it earlier, we make them complicated. So I really feel that this is one of the great secrets
Yeah.
of your own alignment and your success is that ability. And yet we all have access to this.
Yes, but this now with the Aquarian age, this is what we are supposed to be on Earth. Simplify life and not so that the ego diminishes and everything.
Right.
And so it's like I knew that before it was made known everywhere. I just felt it, that how it was easy. The importance to simplify things. And so that's what when I would write a workshop or write a book, it had to be simple, always. Yeah.
When you get up in the morning, let's say this morning, when you wake up, well, what do you feel? What goes through your thoughts and your energy when you start a new day?
I don't know. It depends on the day. I'm always happy because I get up always in good shape, because the first thing I do is always drink a big glass of water, and then I do my exercises, my physical exercises. So then after that, I feel full of life, and I've always got projects. I always have something to do that day that I look forward to, and so it's I've always had to live day by day because of being so busy. Because even when my children were young, I used to work for Tupperware, and I had the Tupperware party every night, and many times in the weekend also, and it's always such. I had to learn how to live the present moment. Yeah.
And as a parallel to that, is it easy for you to stop and not do anything at all and just be?
Well, I stop when I walk. So I love to walk. Every day I walk. And I like to read. I always have 3 books on the go. One spiritual, one more intellectual, and romance, a roman.
Okay.
So I read some of those 3 books every day. And I watch TV a little bit sometime at night, but I've always got something to do. What really makes me be in the present moment is I like to do jigsaw puzzle. And I do them on my tablet now, not on the table with the, and that I get so absorbed, and my fun is to take peace there, because it all goes down on the right side of and boom, and I find the right spot right away, so it's that makes that's what entertains me right now when I stop. But I never stop just sit in the room and look at the ceiling. I never do that. And but because it comes to me, my good ideas, especially when I get up in the morning, I always take many minutes in bed without getting up, and my messages I receive during the night, then they come up. It could be so like yesterday, my first thing it came up, Yeah, I think I would like to paint my bedroom. Yeah, I had never thought about that because I always liked the color. And now another color popped up. And so that's probably was working inside of me. But I know that if it's within the first few minutes that I wake up and something comes up, I either call somebody, do something. I respect that. I know that it doesn't come from my mind because
Right.
I didn't see, should I paint or not? I never said that. So,
Is this perhaps a more difficult question? You've written so many incredible books, and is there one that you're more proud of, or do you see them all as like your children? How do you
Yeah.
how do you see your literary creations?
well, no, they're all what I was going through that year, what was coming up to me because everyone to me is as important. I'm happy that some are more popular than others. That it seems to list to be liked much more by many people, like the wounds. They have 2.5 million books of the wounds sold, and then after it's Listen to Your Body, 1.5 million. But all my other books are bestsellers. But no, I'm proud of each one, and the funny part is when I read it, I don't know how I knew that at the time.
Right.
Even when I write, after I finish, it goes to my corrector, the person that
Editor,
corrects it to make it a better French. And it comes back to me maybe a month or two later. And then I have to check her corrections. And it's because I'm always the one that has the last say on what goes out. This is why I wanted to publish my own books. I did not want to have somebody else correcting my way of writing. And when I read it, I says, "Oh my God, I wrote that. I had no memory." And when I'm writing, I feel that I'm really there, very present. I don't feel like it's somebody else writing. It's a strange feeling to...
Oh, I've lived this my whole life when I'm
Yes,
creating.
yeah,
and
because you're always creating.
It comes through us, and it's a magical process.
Yeah.
And
And it's after...
a gift.
Yeah, after when we see the creation, I said, "Oh my God, I'm pretty good." Like I just congratulate myself for letting it go through me,
Exactly.
because I could maybe have said, "Oh no, I don't want to write another book. It's too much work. I'm too busy."
Yeah. Yeah. It's the human and our ability to be disciplined and present to allow the creation to flow through. Some people say everything already exists. It's just it flows down and through and through our filter. And this is why it's so important to have a filter that's pure as well, as yours has been. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that maybe some people are wondering why we did this interview in English. This all came about because a couple of times when we've gone out to dinner, we've started to speak English, and I was amazed at how clear and precise you are in English. And it's been the case through this whole this whole moment we've shared. Is you express yourself extremely well, and it's not your first language.
No.
With great vocabulary as well.
Yeah. Well, I've read a lot in English, and all my spiritual books that I read, and when I went to California, was always in English also. So for this, we're talking about this subject, it's easy for me in English. But no, English, because my first husband was English also. And so I had to learn with him. And so it's, all my children and my grandchildren, they're all perfect bilingual and better. They have no accent at all. I know I have an accent when I speak, but they don't.
Very little. Your English is remarkably clear.
Well, it was a pleasure.
And for me, I'm obviously fully bilingual, and most people are accustomed to hearing me speak in French. But what a pleasure it is to speak my own language with you, of all people. I mean, to me, it's like the universe has created this incredible opportunity, and wow, it's
well, that was a pleasure. Yes.
It's. Thank you for sharing this time with me and with everyone who benefits. And truly, you're a beautiful gift to the human race.
I wouldn't have done it with too many people, but I know how pure you are, and you are very open, and you don't have a very, very big ego. That's what I like about you, and it's always a pleasure every time we go for walks together and everything. It's always a pleasure to
Thank you very much, Lise. Wow.
Yeah.
Gratitude.
Well, you're welcome.